Hello, hello, everyone. We are just sorting out this link really quickly. But hi. Awesome. So just to introduce this session today, this is an Ask Us Anything session with Kahoot. So my name is Sydney and I'm a member of the Kahoot team, here to answer your questions, ones that you might have about Kahoot that I'm more than happy to answer, but also just to talk about some of our newer features and what is generally going on here at Kahoot. We are very busy, I'm sure, along with all of you as well during this back to school season. And so we've been releasing a lot of new features, but also talking about a lot of the features that we have released over the past couple of years as well. So you questions about those, feel free to place them into the chat. I'm happy to answer your questions as they come through. So again, this is an Ask Us Anything session with Kahoot. So my name is Sydney. I'm a member of the Kahoot team. I've been at Kahoot for about 2 years now. So if you do have any questions for a member of the Kahoot team, just feel free to place that into the chat. I'm able to see the chat and see any questions that you might have, so I can go ahead and answer those. So thank you. I see we have a few more people joining us in this live today. So glad you're here. If you want to use the chat to introduce yourself, maybe what you're teaching, where are you joining us from as well, that can help me to know who all is here. And again, this is an Ask Us Anything session. So the idea is that you can ask me whatever questions you have, and I'm more than happy to answer them. Hi. Welcome, May. Thank you so much for joining this Ask Us Anything session on this lovely Monday, whatever time it might be for you. So as you all start to think about some of the questions that you might have, again, please place those in the chat. Yes, I love to hear you guys made my childhood. That's awesome. Kahoot was not around for me as a kid, but I do like to think that I would have enjoyed it as well, especially because I wasn't one of those students that would necessarily raise my hand all the time. So I like the idea of still being able to show what I know, but in a little bit of a less, extroverted type of way. So I agree. So glad you're here and joining us. Just so you know, and I can introduce myself again, but my name is Sydney. I've been at Kahoot for about 2 years now. I work pretty exclusively with our Kahoot EDU product, which can be purchased by schools or districts or higher education campuses as well. That includes all of the features that we have. So I help train other educators on all of the features that Kahoot has to offer. So feel free to place any questions you have about the Kahoot platform or any features that you might have seen recently that you're interested in knowing more about. Please put them in the chat. Yes, there's already a question about one of our new game modes. So when we use Treasure Trove, do the questions have to be objective types? So with our game modes, and I hope this answers the question correctly, but with our game modes, they currently only support quiz and true false, I believe. So if you're hosting a Kahoot that has a slide in it, if it has a puzzle question type, a type answer, a poll, those are not going to come across to students while they're playing in a game mode. They will eventually be supported, but in this first release of game modes, we are starting out just with our quiz and true false. So there will eventually be other question types as well, potentially even the opportunity to survey students during this, during any of our game modes. But at the moment, only quiz and true false are supported. Yeah, that's a great question. So, where did Kahoot get its name? So, I do know the answer to this question, which is good. So, Kahoot is, interestingly enough, a Norwegian company. So, Kahoot was founded over in Oslo, Norway, where we are still headquartered. But I am not currently based out of Oslo. I'm just here in Austin, Texas, with a few other Kahooters as well. But the whole idea behind Kahoot was to support teachers and students being in cahoots with each other, taking a little bit of more of a fun learning or approach to learning and teaching, and giving students the opportunity to really engage in their learning experiences. So it comes from the idea of being in cahoots together, and then we simply just changed out the C to the K to get what is now us here at Kahoot. So that's a really great question as to where we all got started. And we really did get started as a quizzing platform, a learning and engagement platform that supported quizzing. So students being able to compete throughout a quiz to show what they know and to learn alongside as well. And then we've really grown to be so much more than that. So one of our key objectives over this back to school season is to remind you of a lot of the features that we've released over the past, I would say, couple of years now. We've been releasing features very quickly. And so a lot of them might have slipped through to you, and you might not be as aware of them. So our feature focus for this week is actually on one of our newest question types, which is called slider. So with slider, the answer to a slider question is always going to be a number, and then you're able to customize the range of numbers that students are able to submit their answers within. And you can even customize the margin. So if students submit an answer that's close to the correct one, if you have a larger margin associated with that question, then the closer they are to the correct answer, the more points that they will get. So you can use this question type to teach and say, you might not know the answer to this question, but let's learn together and you'll get more points the closer you are to the correct one. Or you can only give and grant points to students who do submit the correct answer. Testing for that apologize. My connection today has been struggling, so I do apologize for that. If I do go in and out, doing my best here with the internet connection that I have. So if you are interested, during this back to school season, we have these Ask Us Anything sessions on Mondays. And then we have our feature focuses on Thursdays. So if you actually want to tune in and play a Kahoot rather than just listening to me ramble on about Kahoot, if you want to play a Kahoot, you'll want to show up to our lives on Thursday to learn more about those question types that you might be less familiar with, but also just those features that have been released lately that you also might be less familiar with. And yes, I see another question which just asked about how our name became Kahoot. But I'll answer it again just really quickly. It all has to do with supporting teachers and students being in cahoots together. So bringing some fun into the learning experience through what Kahoot provides. And so it comes from the word, or the phrase being in cahoots, but we just changed the C to a K. And we are a Norwegian company. We were kind of born out of actually a master's thesis from one of the technology universities over in Norway. And so it was actually a student and a professor who came up with the idea of Kahoot from the beginning. So that's how we got started, and that's how we got our name. Also, alongside these live sessions, which we do love, but we have a lot of other programming as well through our back to school page. If you're interested in viewing shorts from teachers who are showcasing these different Kahoot features and how they're using them in the classroom, I also host a lot of webinars, a lot of professional development webinars for how to use Kahoot as well, where I'm actually able to share my screen, unlike these live sessions here. And what else do we have? We also just released our registration for our fall EDU meetup. So if you do want to join us for a couple of hours of professional development in, I believe, September 21st, we will have that meetup, and I can drop the link in the chat on where to register for that. that is a great opportunity to continue to learn from the Kahoot team about some of the features that we've released lately, and also to hear from other educators. Man, I am so sorry about my connection. I really need to figure it out. Sorry, I know I keep going in and out, but I'm just trying to get you all the link to our meetup registration. Let's see if I can find it, because that event is always good to attend. If you do attend our fall meetup, you do get a certificate in professional development. Oh my goodness gracious. So if you do attend the fall meetup, you will get a certificate for professional development. Thank you for placing the link in the chat. Every time I go to search, my internet just completely cuts out. So the registration link to register for our Kahoot EDU meetup. Cool. I'm glad a team member of mine just told me the connection isn't that most important. So glad to hear that it's not that bad on potentially the watcher's end. But yes, the link to register for our fall meetup is in the chat, so feel free to check that out. We're going to have a really awesome schedule, again, from Kahoot team members, those of us who actually create the Kahoot product, to talk about some of the new features, including game modes. And then we'll also have spotlights from educators on how they use Kahoot across their own schools or districts. That's a really great event to attend. So feel free to register for that. Now, just to note a couple of our newer features that we have released over the past couple of months, even years. But just over this past summer, we did release 2 new question types, Slider being one of them, which is our feature focus of the week, where there's lots of resources on our website on how to use Slider and that question. But we also have a new question type called Drop Pin as well, where you can upload an image, say, of a cell, and say, ask students where is the nucleus, and they'll actually drop a pin onto where they believe the nucleus to be. So really great for science and also for geography. So that's another question type that we recently released. We also do have a new Google Classroom add-on. So if you are a Google Classroom user, you should be able to, depending on what type of Google Classroom you have, you can work with your admins to add Kahoot into that. So you can access your Kahoots and even view the report of a Kahoot assigned to students all through the Google Classroom add-on. So that's a massive benefit that you can utilize if you are a Google Classroom user. And not necessarily last but not least, but our most recent feature that we did release is our game modes. So you can now play Kahoot in one of our 3 different game modes. One of them is still kind of pending coming out, but it is available for you to see at least. But we have 3 game modes that you can play in. One is going to be a team versus team. That's Color Kingdom. So that's where your class or your students are divided into teams automatically, and they're just trying to cover the majority of a field with their color by answering questions correctly. And then we have Treasure Trove, which is individual. So each student is competing individually. And what they do in Treasure Trove is they're answering questions. And once they get 3 correct answers, they're taken to a screen where they can tap and collect treasures into their treasure chest. So students win, or they do better throughout Treasure Trove, the more jewels and items they place into their treasure chest. So that is how Treasure Trove works. And then Submarine Squad is going to be a class versus computer type of game where the class needs to answer questions correctly to accelerate the submarine from being taken down by our lovely alligator shark whale hybrid of an enemy. So those are our 3 different game modes, and they will be free or available for free for a while. So you can use them in your own classroom. They are great to introduce material to practice repetition with students because the game modes right now only support quiz and true false. So if you're working with Kahoots that have more than just those question types, they're going to see potentially the same questions over and over again. So they can start to really memorize some of that content as it's coming across their screen. Curious if anyone attending has used one of our game modes. I know we had a question about Treasure Trove earlier. I kind of hear different things for what people like more. A lot of people do like Treasure Trove. I also do like Color Kingdoms, but you do kind of want to support that team collaboration as it does. You kind of do need to strategize on how you're coloring the field in order to do really well in Color Kingdoms. So worth trying out for sure if you haven't yet. And those are available in our live version of playing. So once you click start, you're going to be taken to that screen where you can decide to go through classic mode or team mode, or you have your game modes down at the bottom. Now, what is really cool about game modes as well is you as the host get to sit back and relax and just watch the game go on. So rather than hosting a Kahoot, in our classic mode where you're having to click through the Kahoot and you're really needing to engage and teach it, with our game modes, it's a little bit more where you're just providing the content to students to play. They're playing it on their own. They're going to have different questions at different times, and they're going through the content and the game together. And our game modes are time-based. So if you have 5 minutes left in class and you're wanting to use that up, you can quickly launch one of our game modes for just 5 minutes for students to be able to engage and review and go through that content that's presented. For those who may have recently joined, this is an Ask Us Anything session at Kahoot, or hosted by Kahoot. So my name is Sydney. I'm a member of the Kahoot team for about 2 years now. So if you do have any questions about Kahoot, the Kahoot platform, any features that we've released lately, or any feature at all, you can We've already had some questions about our game modes, and we've also had some questions about how Kahoot got its name as well, which is always an interesting question to answer in regards to how we got our name. But if you do have any questions about how to use Kahoot in your classroom, different features that we've released, how do you sign up for a Kahoot account, happy to answer any of those questions that you do have as you come across this live today. Now, out of curiosity, if you are here, I would love to just know where you're from. So if you want to place into the chat where you're joining us from, it's always good to see where you're located, as Kahoot does serve a very global audience. We are really used at all corners of the world, which we're very proud of. We are even an international company ourselves. So we are a Norwegian company. That's where we are headquartered, over in Oslo, Norway. But we do have a few Kahoot team members here in the United States to support our US teachers. So if you are joining us, feel free to place in the chat where you're from. That's one of my favorite things about Kahoot is our global audience. And if you do get the chance to attend one of our bigger events, such as our meetups, where the link to register for our fall meetup is in the chat. So if you're able to join one of those, you'll really see how global we are as a company, as we have people from all over that join those events to get some professional development from the Kahoot team. So again, the link to register for the Kahoot. So feel free to click on that to register for the fall meetup. Yes, and thank you to my colleague who's helping me out in the chat with those links. So we have about 10 minutes left of this live session. Again, this is an Ask Us Anything session. So I am not currently able to share my screen. I'm really just here to answer your questions that you do have about Kahoot that I'm more than happy to answer, whether it's about features, our different plans, or how to use Kahoot if there's a specific case you're interested in trying. Happy to answer questions about that, or just questions you have about any feature that we do offer. I currently support our EDU plan. So our EDU plan is built for schools, districts, campuses, departments to purchase to bring many educators under one subscription. And it also gives you access to all of the features that Kahoot offers. So it is part of my job to be familiar with all the features that we do offer and provide. So feel free to ask questions about our features in the chat if you do have any. This Ask Us Anything has been part of our larger back to school programming where we have contests. You can play Kahoots on our website. You can play Kahoots with us on Thursdays during our lives then to learn about specific features that we've released over the past couple months and even years. So a lot of options for you to learn more from the Kahoot team. I also am hosting webinars, professional development in the form of both workshops and interactive presentations as well. So you can join in, get some professional development hours as well, especially for our meetup, which again, that link is in the chat to register. I'll be hosting a session during our meetup where I will actually be able to share my screen, which will be really nice. So feel free to join us for that to learn more from us. But again, thank you to those of you who have joined us today. I do appreciate it to tune into this live. But again, just feel free to ask me any questions that you do have in the chat. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you might have about Kahoot. So if you're curious about how to get started with Kahoot, maybe you're new, maybe you stumbled into this live and you don't even know what Kahoot is. Kahoot is a learning and engagement platform. We started off very simply being a quizzing platform where you could create your own quizzes and allow students to compete throughout that quiz to get a spot onto that podium. But we've really grown to be so much more than just a quizzing platform. Since then, we both still support educators and students with our product and with what Kahoot brings, but we also encourage the use of Kahoot even in the workplace as well. So pretty large companies use Kahoot for internal employee engagement and training. So we really challenge anyone who says, I won't be using this tool, I just want my teachers to use it, to say, well, you might actually be able to use it because Kahoot really is a space where you can take any content that you're wanting to present in any way and just make it a little bit more engaging and fun for those receiving what you're presenting on. So it's a good way to think about how Kahoot can be used. I say it's a creative platform at the end of the day. But apart from just creating Kahoots, you can also use existing Kahoots that are created by other educators from all around the world, or even those from our premium partners such as Disney, Marvel, National Geographic. We have Scholastic, Time for Kids, Empatico. There's so many great publishers, I can't even name them all, for you to easily plug in and play and add into your instruction as you're planning out your lessons. So if you don't want to create Kahoots completely from scratch, you don't have to. You can just tap into the existing content that's available to you. Now, once you have a Kahoot, whether you are using an existing Kahoot out there, or you have created one, you have the option to either play that Kahoot live or you can assign that Kahoot asynchronously. So our live Kahoot way to play is going to be that classic version where each student is competing against each other for points based on speed and accuracy. You're also going to have our team mode, which does the same, but students are competing together as a team versus competing individually. And then we now have our new game modes as well, which it does prioritize accuracy because you can only get so far in the game if you are getting the questions correct. But once you get enough questions correct, then your objective is a little bit different. So it's not necessarily just based on speed and accuracy, but you will do well in each game mode if you are both fast and accurate. Now that is our live version. So somebody needs to be there hosting it. If it's in classic mode or team mode, actively hosting, or with a game mode, you've opened up a session and allowed students to join in. Now, alternatively, you can assign a Kahoot asynchronously. So what that means is that you can create a link to a Kahoot that students can play on their own time and at their own pace. So you can assign Kahoots as homework. You can assign Kahoots as a study resource for them to engage with as well, for them to be able to complete or go through as many times as they like over a period of time. Our assigned way to play is also the only place in Kahoot where you can completely eliminate time as a factor. So you can turn off our question timer, really prioritizing accuracy over speed. And so students will have enough time to look at the correct answer, find the correct answer, or even go out and look for what the correct answer is if students are still in that phase of learning that specific content that you are covering. Now, once you've assigned a Kahoot or hosted a Kahoot live, then a report is going to be generated. So you'll want to look into those reports to get actionable insights to inform your instruction moving forward. And that can help you to determine what content needs to be revisited with the students, what are they see, how they responded to each question in the Kahoot. You're also presented with the difficult questions students didn't do so well with. So if there are more than 3 difficult questions, you're prompted to create a Kahoot only out of those difficult questions. So if you host a Kahoot live in class, you look at that report and see that there were some difficult questions with it, then you can create a Kahoot just with those difficult questions and maybe assign that as homework for them to complete before the next time you come to class. Another option you have is to just host that Kahoot the next time you come together as a class as a form of retrieval practice. So that is another option you have, just made really easy from those Kahoot reports. So if you are just hosting Kahoots for fun, you just have a little bit of time left at the end of the day, and you're not looking into those reports and actually using it for formative assessment, I would highly recommend you do, because that is possible with Kahoot. So it can really help inform you on how to move forward with your instruction with the students. So while they're having fun, you're getting a lot of great insights into how to proceed with them. So we do just have about 1 minute left. So again, thank you for anyone who joined us today during this live. We do really appreciate it. And again, we do have additional live sessions on Thursdays where they're actually hosting a Kahoot, so a little bit more engaging than the session here with us today. But for anyone who asked us a question or who showed up, essentially what I do anyways. But thank you so much for joining and coming to learn a little bit more about Kahoot. And if anyone does have any last remaining questions, feel free to ask them into the chat. I'm more than happy to, in case there's any lingering questions, but we are just at about 12:30 right now. So I'm going to go ahead and close out this stream, but we will be here next week as well. So feel free to tune back in to the live, or you can always join us on an upcoming webinar, at our meetup, or even on our lives on Thursdays. So we hope to see you at another Kahoot event here soon. And again, thank you for watching. Bye.